Antimicrobial resistance is a really worrying problem.
It is an issue that concerns us all.
We are losing control of these very resistant bacteria.
It is really a threat to our survival as human beings.
Yet it is largely underestimated and underreported.
Need to increase awareness. There's not enough awareness.
I am increasing my personal risk of dying by using antibiotics.
Better educating the media, the public, the governments.
And efforts to tackle it are underfunded.
The reality is we have underinvestment throughout the whole sort of health system that addresses this problem. We can't afford waste.
Now, a new initiative in Europe aims to coordinate research and funding to fight against antimicrobial resistance.
The World Health Organization considers that one of the major threats to humanity health today is the emergence of antimicrobial drug resistance.
We've become complacent about bacterial infection, and we now expect whenever we get infected there'll be a cure. 100 years ago, 25% of deaths were due to bacterial infection, and we're now facing that coming back. If we don't do anything, we won't have any effective antibiotics, and even the simplest scratch in the garden could lead to death.
Common disease like urinary tract infection, pneumonia, would kill again in a matter of days.
If you go to the hospitals, patients who have, let's say, immunosuppressive therapy, in case of cancer, these patients will be affected with multi-drug resistant organisms. We see patients die now of infections that we can no longer treat. That is the reality.
This is a natural process, antimicrobial resistance, that is built into the DNA of the microbes. Bacteria are marvelous at adapting to their environment. And so you challenge bacteria with a drug, and the bacteria want to survive, and they invoke mechanisms to resist the drug. They're successful at that. Why is antimicrobial resistance such a problem today? Well, because of a number of factors. Because the microbes continue to evolve and our drug supply continues to dwindle. It's said that the easiest drugs have been discovered first. The harder ones are the ones we're trying to develop now. And it's also harder for companies to make an investment decision in making a drug that may only be used for 7 days, 14 days, and that's it. When they could be making drugs for other diseases, such as heart disease or cancer, that requires chronic treatment, long-term treatment. And for cholesterol-lowering drugs, they're taken every day by a large percentage of the population.
While low return on investment means very few new antimicrobial drugs are being developed, the overuse and misuse of existing drugs is also contributing to the spread of resistant microorganisms. Most infections that we get, for example, are viral and require no antibiotics, but behaviors are hard to change.
There is a demand from the patient for antibiotics, and the physician has a conflict of interest. So does the pharmacist, so does the manufacturer of antibiotics, because there is an incentive to promote the sale of antibiotics for all these three professionals.
You also have advances in modern medicine, and that's a good thing, where people are staying alive much longer than ever before and are much more vulnerable by the procedures that kept them alive to acquire infections. And as more and more people live longer and longer, more and more drug gets used, more and more resistance occurs.
We live longer and we travel extensively, and globalization facilitates the spread of AMR.
The way we live today increases the risk of spreading resistant strains because we travel, we go to different parts of the world. So if you're in Sweden and you have a bacterial strain which is resistant, and then you go to Pakistan, you will bring it there, or vice versa, and then it will spread.
Given the complexity of AMR, the first challenge that the European initiative has met was to shape a common vision for researchers and to set a broad agenda for research priorities.
The strategic research agenda is an approach from a One Health perspective. We want to tackle antimicrobial resistance not only in humans but also in animals and in the environment, trying to see how we can get rid of the resistant bacteria in sewage, in water supply, in food, etc. And so we basically developed 6 major research lines.
And the joint programming group have done an excellent job in setting the agenda with 6 themes ranging from new therapies to surveillance.
So really it's all about doing research to provide the evidence that is needed to change policy, to implement policies on antimicrobial resistance.
Funding for the initiative will come in part from the European Commission, but mainly from public and private funds invested by participating countries. As many of these countries already have national research programs, they will have to be convinced that pooling together resources will increase efficiency by filling knowledge gaps and preventing duplication, and that international collaboration is a necessity, as no single country can alone face the threat of AMR.
It will need a mind shift to share the money with other countries, and it will take some time, but I hope we will get there.
I would say I think this works best when it's grassroots up, and it's actually more about the researchers than the funders. I think it's going to happen bottom up.
Scientists like challenging problems. They like interesting problems. And they like problems that are of importance. We have all of those things with antibacterial and antimicrobial resistance. It's a big challenge, and solutions can be life-saving. So that's the making for a very exciting adventure for scientists to move on.